Note the disclaimer. There's some very important information here, so you might want to pause.
Yo! Hey everybody, it's me, Sonic! Sonic the Hedgehog! Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wake Angel 2001! Because between you and me, they're way past cool!
Hello my friends, Wake Angel 2001 here with the next part of Akumath's commission, Juliet Suter. As you might get by her appearance and name, she is supposed to be like a public domain, royalty-free version of Julie Sue. Of course, don't think that she's just that. She is a fan character with her own backstory, distinct from the official Julie Sue character, but she's similar enough that she slots into that role for whatever works Akumath wants to do with her. I'm not sure about the deep lore of Juliet Suter, but we all know how litigious Ken Penders can be with his original characters do not steal. Okay, friends, here's the deal. I have been wanting to try and find a way to make people's Sonic OCs without actually having to use any parts from real Sonic figures because, you know, Sonic figures are getting harder and more expensive to find. So the base toy for this is the Mega Constructs Dr. Halsey figure. She's a character from Halo, and these things are like at most $10, so they are significantly cheaper than any Sonic figures you can find. And I have had success using them in the past. I used her to make SNT and the Amy Rouge. So yeah, this combined with my 3D printer is leading me down a path that will wean us off having to use any official Jazzwares Sonic figures, which should keep the cost of commissions down, so that should make all of you super happy. That being said, here is a 3D printed Amy Rose head. It didn't come out quite perfect, but it did come out good enough for use in this custom. I found out that my filament that I bought is actually not good for this kind of detail work because it takes too long to harden, so it gets distorted by the movements of the nozzle. I don't like that. I got better filament coming, but it's going to take several weeks to get here. So with her head base made, I just had to sculpt on the echidna bits. You know, I used my Dremel to sand away the ears and the spines in the back of the head, and sculpted on the longer echidna dreads. Of course, she does have a different dread pattern, so this required multiple stages. You know, stage 1, the bangs, and the main 2 along with the muzzle, and then after all that had a chance to harden and solidify, then you do the 3 on the back, which complete the look of her head, and then, you know, all the little detail work, like the technological greeble on her techno tentacle, you know, all that good stuff. So with all that is Juliet Suter's head. It just needed a nice little paint job, and funnily enough, Juliet actually has a little headband going on, which is in the same place that Amy Rose's headband is, so yay, painty painty. I should note that I did actually use one official Sonic part. That is the tail from a Knuckles figure. It's a small thing I just happen to have. I easily could have made this from scratch if I needed to. It's just a tail, so I'm still going to count this as a great accomplishment in the whole not needing official Sonic parts to make a Sonic figure thing. So yeah, that's it. I used the Knuckles tail. That's the only cheat. As for the rest of the torso, it really didn't need any modifications aside from a repaint. That's the cool thing about the Dr. Halsey body. It's pretty much a female blank buck, and its proportions actually work for most Sonic characters. I mean, it may need a little bit of a boob job if I'm going to do something like Rouge, but aside from that, it's, you know, it actually works very well just as it is. And for this character in particular, it's even better because she comes with a jacket. Yeah, that little vest thing. All I had to do was trim it down a little bit to be like the waist-length jacket that Juliet Suter wears, and a quick little repaint job, and that's it. So this is actually a perfectly suited character for this particular book. So isn't that super fun? The hands are also 3D printed, and I always hesitated to 3D print hands because they have more fine details and are harder to, do. But Corey Sonic Fan and I worked together to come up with like a particular pose for the hands that the printer is able to do. Like, it turns out that with all the fingers touching each other and curled into like the holding thing pose, it actually is able to print and keep the fingers distinct. Like, when I try to separate the fingers, they get a whole bunch of webbing and look like tumorous lumps lying on top of each other. And when the fingers are straight, it just kind of looks like a flipper. So this pose actually gave us the best prints on the hands. And another challenge was painting these arms, because like this is joint plastic, so like almost the entire arm is basically like a pin disc from another action figure, and I had a very difficult time painting them. I mean, I could paint like the bicep part of the arm and the shoulder pretty well, but the insides of the elbows and the actual shoulder joint, they just kept on peeling every time I moved. Even if I use crazy glue to try and keep the paint stable, like the crazy glue itself would be peeled off by the joint. So this is when I realized that I could use a Sharpie. Like, I always hesitate to use Sharpie markers for doing any kind of action figure coloring, but a friend of mine actually does a pretty amazing job coloring action figures with Sharpies, and they don't rub later. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and it actually gave me the best success in painting the insides of her elbows and shoulders to make sure that they wouldn't peel. So yeah, we have one of my very first Sharpie colored customs, even if it's just a small part. It just feels so weird using a Sharpie for this kind of thing, because I never really thought of that as a thing that would make good action figure coloring, Okay, so one thing that this filament that I have is actually still good for making is shoes. I'm not sure why, but it probably has something to do with the way shoes are shaped, and that they start big on the bottom and get smaller at the top, and they don't really have too much of a complicated pattern going on, but I'm still able to print high quality shoes without everything getting all messed up by how this filament doesn't like to cool properly. So here is a 3D printed silver boot next to an actual Jazzwares silver boot, just for a point of comparison. I do believe they are the same size, although I think the 3D printed one, which is based off of the Sonic Forces model, is a tiny bit taller. I think it might have something to do with the pose that Silver was intended to stand in. But yeah, these are the same size. I measured them to the millimeter accuracy when I fed the model into my printer. So I now can make 3D printed silver boots, which are just as good as the official boot. Which is good because a lot of fan characters and official characters have boots that resemble Silver's. So again, this is taking up a very commonly used Sonic figure part off the table, as I can now make them. Of course, a little bit of epoxy and a bit of a paint job is all that was needed to actually attach this to the Dr. Halsey feet, after of course cutting the feet off right below the knee. And yeah, now that we have this done, we can take a look at the completed Juliet Suter figure. And here we go. I mean, like, I guess when I was talking about the Sharpies, you actually saw most of her, so there isn't much left to the imagination, but now she has her legs. And yeah, look at that. That is what a Sonic figure looks like when I don't use any actual parts from a Jazzwares Sonic figure. Except for the tail, which, like I said, I could easily have made, but just happened to have one more lying around, so I figured why not. But yes, this could be the bold new face of Wake Angel 2001's custom toys, where I only need a random base toy for joints, and all of the actual functional parts that look like your character are made with a combination of 3D printing and hand sculpting, making it all uniquely something that only I can do. I'm being told by the ego police to keep it down, or else they're gonna have to take me in. So, yeah. So there we go. That is your public domain Julie Sue figure. And I thank you all for watching. Thanks to you, DubBub, for the whole Sonic intro. And we will catch you next time.